Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Ashram Talk session. Today, we're going to explore a super real topic, why we're always gravitating toward results, whether that's success, comfort, recognition, right? No one has ever set out to be uncomfortable or unsuccessful. We're always looking to achieve something. And typically, we gravitate toward whatever is going to give us the quickest result. But the Bhagavad Gita explains that oftentimes, even after we achieve these things, we're still not satisfied, right? We're just on to the next thing. So today we're going to explore a little bit more of that confusion that we tend to have about how to obtain long-term fulfillment, where that satisfaction is actually coming from. And we're very excited to be joined by Chandramukhi. Welcome, Chandramukhi. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here after a long time, I think a few months. And, I know you're also recently returned from a pilgrimage to India. Anything about that you'd like to share with us?
Thank you. It's so nice to be back. I've been missing ashram talks, and it's really nice to come back on. Yes, I've been to India, and it's interesting because every place has like a vibration about it, and can depending on what's going on there, like if there's really intense things happen there, that kind of mood can come into you. And when you're in India, there's these beautiful holy places that are very sacred that actually bring you closer to God. And I just felt so nourished being there. And actually, it's interesting because at the beginning of this Bhagavad Gita, it talks about being in Kurukshetra, which is a place of Dharma, a place of a spiritual place. And Dhritarashtra was hoping that his sons wouldn't be influenced by the place, so they'd not fight. And of course, they did, and it's all going ahead. But it's interesting to note because the holy dham, when you go there, these holy places, they're sacred. The rivers are sacred. The place is sacred. It's just got this vibration that helps your faith deepen. And yeah, it reminded me of that because it actually does influence you. You feel like uplifted. You feel connected. And so yeah, it's something I recommend everybody do at some point, or if possible regularly, because it's just such a nourishing thing for your spiritual connection. So yeah, it was really, really good time.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Very inspiring. I'm inspired just hearing you talk about that. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm really excited for this topic today. I think it's honestly relevant to everyone. So whenever you're ready, we can get started for today.
Okay. So today we're going to be discussing, as Sienna described, we're going to be discussing how we're always searching for quick satisfaction, where there's so many needs we have in our life, and somehow or other we accept the quickest thing that happens that can bring us that. And it's our human tendency. We chase it. We want success, recognition, comfort. And we want, in especially in the Western culture and our Western society, we're always trying to get fast outcomes. And in this verse today, Krishna is going to be describing um, that tendency, and indicating in this chapter, he's indicating the need to go deeper and get really firm ground in our life, rather than just always fleeting here, fleeting there, but really trying to make our roots deep so that we can find long lasting satisfaction, and not just those things that bring results that are temporary, ephemeral, that just last only for a short time, how we can find real inner fulfillment. So we'll have a look at the verse today. And so we're in chapter 4, verse 12. And so I'll read the Sanskrit first. But before we start, I would just like to offer my heartfelt obeisances, my Mangala Charana, unto the lotus feet of my divine master, my spiritual masters. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. So offering my Obeisances unto the lotus feet of my beloved Diksha Gurudev, Nityalila Pravista Om Vishnupad Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and all of our illustrious line of our spiritual masters, especially Nityalila Pravista Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, and praying for their mercy and guidance to dive deep into this verse today. Okay, so looking at this verse, Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, verse 12. Kankshanta karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devata kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. Now, it's interesting because this verse, if we've been reading and discussing and talking about the last 11 verses in the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna has been describing how he is going to give this transcendental knowledge that never deteriorates, that is eternal, that brings you in connection, spiritual connection with yourself and the higher self forever. He's giving this topmost transcendental knowledge of how to be free and how to find real fulfillment. And just in the previous verse, as we heard in the last class, he's saying, as all surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. So he's setting the scene for, what he can, how he reciprocates with everyone who approaches him. So Krishna is unlimitedly merciful. God is full of love and affection for all his parts and parcels, all living entities. And so he reciprocates according to how we approach him. And so then he's talking about this in this verse. He's looking at those who approach divinity for lesser results, or something that's actually not going to really satisfy the soul. And so he's saying men in this world desire success in fruitive activities. So that means that when we, and of course he's talking about men and women, and that's in tradition, that's the way it's written, but it's for all human beings. Desire success in fruitive activities. Everything we do, we're trying to find a result from, right? And it's like we're trying to strive for success. Success in everything we're doing, for happiness, for immediate results in whatever we're doing. And we usually turn to we often turn to some kind of higher power to do that, to get recognition, enjoyment. We're constantly searching. We want to be filled up. If we're not feeling fulfilled and happy in our daily life, then somehow or other we're striving for that. And that's the nature of the soul. It's the nature of who we are, that we're meant for that. It's interesting because one of our great teachers says, in regards to the famous word Om, and he says that Om means a big yes, that what you're searching for exists, but it's where we search it. That's the point of, are we seeking only in this material world, in material results, or are we seeking deeper in the spiritual realm? And generally we naturally gravitate to, because of our conditioned state, because we've forgotten who we really are, it seems natural to us to gravitate to enjoying in this material world, sense enjoyment. That seems what's natural for us, but actually it's not natural. And we find that when we do taste the things, the enjoyments in this material world, we're never satiated, we're never satisfied. There's always something else we want to fill us up. So many people in this world will gravitate to chasing quick results in any situation. It could be trying to please a higher authority, for example, to get promoted up in your, like, this is a material example, promoted in your job, for example, and you do bend over backwards so that you think that that's the best way to do it, and you get the it's almost like a boon, I guess you could say. Like, they like you, so they want to promote you. So there's all different ways we can go about it, and there is many who also approach, as this verse describes, the demigods. Now, I'm sure some of us are familiar with the demigods, some of us may not be. In the Vedic scriptures, it describes that Krishna, he is the supreme personality of Godhead, the origin, source of everything. And when he creates this material world, he also creates the demigods. So the demigods, also known as, in Sanskrit, as devas, and they're like delegated. It's a demigods because they're not God, they're demigods. They're delegated with the power of God to manage the workings of this universe. So it's interesting because everything around us, there's actually a personality behind it. So there's the sun god, Surya, and the sun god is actually generating the light and the heat from the sun. It's not just a ball of fire. There's a personality behind it who's empowered by God to provide that. There's the Agni, the Lord of fire. There's Vayu, the Lord of air. Varuna, the Lord of waters. Kuvera is the Lord of wealth. Yamaraj, or Yama, is the Lord of death and justice. Chandra, the moon, is the Lord of the moon. So each of those personalities is a living entity, actually like us, a spirit soul who is part and parcel of God. But due to their pious activities, they've attained this position in this life, or sometimes there's Vayu, the demigod Vayu will be there for some time, and then another jiva, another living entity, will take their post. And so they're providing and maintaining the workings of this whole material universe, and it's given guidance in some parts of the Vedas, and this is why Krishna is covering that, because Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the Vedas. And he's pointing towards that section of the Vedic literatures that where it describes that if you worship the demigods, or if you please the demigods, then you will get certain results. So, for example, some people may worship the sun god, because honoring that he provides light and heat and energy for all life. How the sun regulates the time, the seasons. So there's day and night and the different seasons in the year. The sun sustains growth. The sun sustains plant and human life and animals and everything. Without the sun, we can't live. And so some will worship the sun and for health, vitality, success, so that their eyesight will improve. So many different material results. And the sun, by receiving those so we've talked about before sacrifice, and how this whole world is going around by sacrifice, and the universe is like this great big there's an ecology happening where when the demigods are satisfied, then everything works in harmony. And when the demigods, and obviously Krishna, who is behind the demigods, empowering them, when he is satisfied, then the whole universe is satisfied and everything works in harmony. But when there isn't sacrifice going on, when there isn't where people are not living their life as an offering to the Supreme, then there's disharmony, there's discord. So getting back to the point that the demigods have their roles. They're empowered. They're living entities, actually like us. If we in our journey, the living entities, the spirit soul comes to that point where we have received, they've done so much good and so much pious action that they're elevated to that position, then they're helping Krishna, helping God in maintaining the universe. So Chandra, the Lord of the Moon, he influences the mind and emotions, influences plant growth, maintains the world by regulating cycles, nourishment, even mental states are influenced by the moon. And so people worship the moon for emotional peace or fertility or calmness, things like that. So all the demigods have their different functions. But interestingly, Krishna's pointing to the fact in this verse, though, that so he says, men in this world desire success in fruitive activities and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. So by worshipping the demigods, there's that actually a quick temporary result that happens. So you can get the blessings for good health. You can get the blessings for more wealth in your life by worshipping the different demigods. However, there's a catch, is that these results are all related to the body and mind. They're related to finding peace. They're related to finding material satisfaction, but it has an ending, because everything we do that is material, that is on the platform of material action, it has an ending. So we may it's like everything, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Everything we attain materially in this world will be one, okay, it could end at death, it could end after 10 years, it could end after a few lifetimes. But material results that are they're short term, and they can't fully satisfy the soul. And even when we get a limited amount of wealth, those that have so much wealth in this world or so much material success, that there's always something lacking. There's always something that's missing. And that's because, as we've talked about in so many other classes, we're not satisfying the needs of the soul. And so the Gita, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is talking about the inner issue, the inner satisfaction that we're all searching for. We don't want, do we just want temporary limited results, or do we want to go for eternal happiness, eternal health, eternal wealth that is related to the soul, spiritual wealth that's never going to decay, that's never going to diminish, success that doesn't have a failure in the end, eternal calmness, not just calm for a lifetime or 10 years or a few lifetimes, but eternal calmness. When there's always the danger that being conditioned in this material life, birth after birth, and being entangled in the cycle of birth and death, even if we get, even if by our actions we get a certain amount of material happiness, eventually there's going to be, because of the way this world works, there's going to be like bad reactions that come in as well. We might unconsciously perform sinful reactions that give negative results. So this world is very, 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 without the shelter of God, this world is very, very dangerous in a way. It can bring us up, bring us down. But shelter in the Lord, shelter in Krishna, and living our life as an offering to God and searching for that which is eternal and not temporary, then that is rising up above the world of danger, of good and bad reactions and temporary happiness. It brings lasting spiritual outcomes, lasting happiness. So when we seek out, and whether we're worshipping the demigods or whether we're not worshipping the demigods, seeking out temporary outcomes that only satisfy us for a short amount of time can be likened to, there's actually different trees that grow that give a really good example. There's some trees that when they grow, they don't have very good roots, but they have very, very tall trunks. There's actually a tree called the alder, and it grows up to like 20 meters, but it's got very, very like small amount of roots, shallow roots, and it can easily be knocked over if there's a storm. Whereas trees like the banyan tree or the English oak tree, even, they're slow growing, they take a long time to mature, but they spread their roots really far under the ground. And so then, after as they grow, there's no way that they're going to be toppled over in a storm. They've got their really strong roots. And so in the Gita, Krishna is teaching us how to grow our roots strong in eternal happiness and to not be toppled over by the hankerings of the mind that are always trying to seek results that are really quick and trying to satisfy the immediate need rather than looking at the long-term overall need of the soul. If we're growing really tall and looking like we're doing really well, but our roots are not stable in eternity, in spiritual knowledge and understanding, then when the difficult times come, which is likened as a storm, when death comes in our life, or when dark intense things happen, we can get overwhelmed by them because we're not having our roots steady. So Krishna teaches us how we can have our roots steady, establishing our life in transcendence, in transformation, not in temporary fixes. The ice cream fix, or the chocolate fix, or getting the latest model car, or trying to being the best healer to heal others, but trying to find that inner connection with the Lord in our heart. And if we can establish that inner connection, then we can be strongly rooted in our roots will be strong in connection with the spiritual realm. And that's actually the realm that is tangible. With our eyes, we see what is before us, and it actually seems tangible. We get allured, just like the mirage that we see in the desert. We get allured by so many things that appear to give us happiness. And we experience that through our senses. Our eyes get allured here, our tongue gets allured there, our ears, our sense of touch. We have 5 senses that interact with this world, and it seems tangible. And that is the illusion of this world. It is called Maya. But when we feel with our heart, and when we try to develop our inner spiritual vision, our third eye, sometimes it's described as, our inner connection with divinity, through prayer, through calling out, through mantra, through living our life as Krishna describes in this Bhagavad Gita, living our life as an offering, then all the problems that we're trying to solve will automatically be solved. So when we serve God, who is the source of the demigods, the source of our creation, the source of ourselves, then the part is serving the whole. So the devas, the demigods, they're part of God. They're not God directly, even though some may believe that they are. There's so many examples in the scriptures describing how the demigods are servants of God. They are empowered by the Lord, and actually they become most happy when we please the Supreme Being. And it's described in the scriptures that when we water the root of the tree, all of the leaves and everything are happy. So all of the parts and parcels of the tree are happy when we water the root. So when we only approach the demigods, or only rely on our own material senses to give us happiness, then it's like trying to water the parts of the tree, trying to water the leaves and the branches. The tree's just going to die, right? So the part is meant to serve the whole. All demigods serve the whole. And actually, it's Krishna's says it's Krishna's saying in this verse, the previous verse, he's saying, as those who worship me, I reciprocate. As people approach me, I reciprocate accordingly. So he is actually the one who's giving the results that the demigods give, the devas. It's actually his power that they're able to do that. But when we approach Krishna, then all of our $1 Krishna's like the $100 as an example. If you have $100, then all your $1 problems are solved, right? If you try to get $1 here, $1 there to solve your $1 problems, it takes a lot of time, and it's not. But if you have like the $100, it just covers everything, right? So when we go to the source, go to the center, the part who is us, the part serves that whole, then automatically everything is happy. The demigods are happy, the sun is happy, the moon is happy, the land, the universe, everything around us, the Mother Earth, everything is in harmony when the people walking upon the earth are connecting with the supreme being, who is connecting with actually the universe, or that supreme divinity who is guiding and from which everything is coming from. So this world is actually, in some ways, it can be described like a prison house, because it's a place where we've come, where we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten, and so we've got we've got the subtle body and the gross body. They're like our coverings that keep us in this prison. And we have shackles that the goodness, passion, and ignorance. They're like shackles, the modes, which we'll be discussing later in the Gita. But in those who are on the Earth planet, and those who are shackled, it's described that if we're shackled in the darker modes, then it's shackled with like iron shackles. Whereas the demigods, they are more elevated, but they're still shackled, but they have gold and silver shackles. But they're like the prison wardens, kind of like maintaining this universe by the Lord's will. And so the way to come out of this confinement is to realize and follow a spiritual path that will help us realize that we're actually a spirit soul. We are not this body. We are part and parcel of God. And how can I live my life in service to that supreme being? Our actions then will become purposeful. If we're focusing on our loving relationship with the supreme, our actions will become purposeful. Our desires will become even more refined, because we'll see that, oh, we can actually aspire for way more than there's so much more to me than what I see with my eyes, and to those around us. There's so much more to us. We have a spiritual body, a spiritual feelings, spiritual nature, spiritual name. That's we never grow old. We never we're we if when we connect with our eternal relationship with the supreme, when we're so happy always, but in love, with such variegated loving exchanges. And just like there's variety here, there's variety in the spiritual world. So everything we experience here is like a reflection, and it's a reflection, because all the variety, the relationships that we have, the fun, the adventures here, ultimately it brings a variety of happiness and distress. But when we are connecting with the Supreme Lord, and we're realizing our eternal relationship, then all that variety is still there, all the adventures and excitement, but it is in harmony. So when we're in harmony with our spiritual nature and developing our loving relationship with God, then everything is transformed, and our whole life becomes transformed to be always eternally happy. So and that deep fulfillment, lasting fulfillment, comes when we do that. When we're not doing that, we're constantly dependent on fleeting results. So just to finish, when we're just searching after quick success, it's not the same as meaningful success. It's not eternal. It's not forever. And whatever we're going to chase, it shapes what we're going to become. So the Gita is inviting us to look beyond temporary, quick results and dig deep roots, establish deep roots in transcendence, in that which is transcendental to this world, in our spiritual connection with divinity, and then true inner fulfillment will be with us forever. So I'll finish there. Thank you. If there's any questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Chandramukhi. Yeah, very relevant, very inspiring talk. We have a comment from Colleen. So Colleen says, amazing class. Thank you, Chandramukhi. Love that Om means a big yes. Thank you for explaining how the demigods work and how we establish our transcendental roots and connection with the Lord. Yeah, thank you, Colleen.
Yes, thank you, Colleen. It's always so nice to have you there. You're always there.
Yeah,
It's great.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Thank you, Colleen. And so, Chandramukhi, I know like we can think about maybe not chasing material results, but I think if any of us tried to stop living material life, it's impossible, right? Like it might be artificial. Like I think, we can try to resist that, but we need to maintain our bodies or if we have a family. But how can we focus on, trying to kind of offer the results of those actions or kind of those goals that we might be seeking out in our current context?
That's a very good question, and it's very, very relevant to all of us because you can't stop acting. And I think that's what Krishna's discussing in the whole Gita is that don't stop your action, but just transform the attitude. And it's all about looking at what is our attitude and what do we want. And with this knowledge that we have access to, one, we're getting guided to a higher aspiration. And that high aspiration is connecting with God in every minute of every day, basically. At least for some of the minutes of the day to start off with. And then we increase. And so Krishna guides us to, well, just be where you are. But what is your focus? What is your desire? Wherever you are, whether you're a mother, a father, or, you're working, whatever your situation it is, how can I see that in a different way rather than for myself, which we've been habituated? And we've got to practice to get to this. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. It's a practice. Yoga is a practice, right? And so yoga, or uniting our heart with Krishna, is a daily practice. And if we can have a spiritual practice that sets our day up in the morning and in the evening, it could be chanting our mantras, prayer, whatever our spiritual practice is, to fix our mind and our heart and connection with that connection. Then if we have that starting in the morning and at night before we go to bed, because if we do it at night before we go to bed, it will help us the next day, right? It'll be easier the next day. And then when whatever we're doing, we can try and work on what's going to take time, obviously, but work on being present in the moment. Well, who am I working for? Is this for myself or is this for God? And ask ourselves this. We can be in the moment, and every minute we can serve God, depending on our attitude. Or even, we serve God might be words that we don't really relate to. It might be just that connection. God is with me right now while I'm cleaning. And that's the beautiful thing about the process of Bhakti Yoga that Krishna describes. It's very easy to chant God's names in whatever you're doing. By calling God's names, they're actually transcendental sound vibration. God's names are non-different from Him. And so we call out, Hey Govinda, or Hey Gopal, or Hare Krishna. Those words are actually connecting us directly with God, and then we can actually draw on those names throughout the day. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to develop our connection with God. It's just about where are we right now, and how can I connect? And if we work on that as a practice every morning and every evening, and then try and do that throughout the day through whatever we're doing, we can transform. Just our daily actions can be a yoga, and we can have the yoga of cleaning. That's what I tell myself sometimes, because my house gets a mess. I'm like, okay, I've got to make this a yoga. Otherwise I don't want to do it. I don't want to clean my house.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
well,
same here.
this is Krishna's house. Okay, so how can I connect while I'm sweeping? So I think, we can all do that according to our different whatever we are in our life. But that's a little part, my little two bobs worth about it.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. I think that's very inclusive, very, grounded. I like that you said quick success is not meaningful success. And, I think you said don't change the action, but change the attitude, right? Yeah, I was listening to a class the other day, and the speaker said something like, don't try to not have material life. Like, you're gonna have it. Like, the real question is, are you going to have a spiritual life? And yeah, just like you touched on, right? I think, yeah, these are definitely ongoing themes in the Gita, not about what we're not doing, but what we are doing, which I think is a little different than maybe some other spiritual paths that like mainstream Western society is familiar with. Um, yeah, but really, really inspiring topic. I think we can all apply this immediately, right? Like you said, some type of spiritual practice in the morning, at night before we go to bed, or we all probably have something to cook or clean or whatever today. So, yeah, thank you so much for meeting us where we are with this topic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
See you next time.
yeah, it was great to see you again. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our 100th Bhagavad Gita class.
Wow,
Yeah,
100. That's
it's been
amazing.
about a year and 100 classes. Isn't that cool?
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again. See you soon.